increase everywhere.
Every basic ability, skill, and talent can be developed through hard work, good strategies, persistence, dedication, and input from others. Where focus goes, energy flows. So focus your energy on continuous learning and stop wasting time thinking about looking smart. Build resistance, build vulnerability, build courageousness, and face adversity with a smile. Become comfortable with uncomfortable. You know, the only person that you need to prove anything to is you. Imperfect action trumps perfect inaction. Stop wasting time and get on with it. Failure is part of learning, so start learning by taking action.
Christian Lavolsi, Wednesday, we are back here with the hot seat and we are on an absolute high after our momentum weekend in Sydney last week. How are you feeling? How are you feeling after those epic days?
Yeah, they were huge. The tribe was in fine form. Our Evolve members on Friday worked their tush off for a solid 12 hours, and then we backed it up with a remarkable LWP presentation where I'm pretty sure most people were fading by about the 10th hour, and we got there in the 12th, and there's been some really positive outcomes for attendees and the members, and we saw a continuation of that today in our weekly jam. So yeah, lots of smiles all around. I'm really proud of all of our members and how they how they performed. They really made some big improvements over the last 6 months in particular. But we've got members that have been there since foundation, so they're going up to 18 months, and watching them learn and grow and develop is just, you get so much pride as their mentor. It's it's pretty cool.
It is definitely cool. And, as everyone's starting to talk about winding down for the year, we know that our clients are getting ready to ramp up for next year, and they're hitting into next year with some solid plans and foundations for their business growth. So that's so exciting. But anyway, that is not what we're here to talk about today. This is the hot seat. I've got 3 questions for you. I know you're ready to switch offline for the day and get out of here. So let's get going. I wanted to talk to you today about embracing change and innovation. So my first question I wanted to ask you, Christian, is how often do you assess the need for innovation in your business? So is this something that you're always looking for the opportunities, or is there a time where you just go, let's just sit back, reflect, and work out what's potentially around?
Sure. I mean, look, Simone, the frequency of assessing any need for anything, let alone innovation, really does depend on the industry, the size of your business, its competitive landscape. But in general, it's a good practice for businesses to regularly evaluate and check in on any innovation efforts, particularly to stay competitive, as well as adapting to change to the market conditions. And obviously, we've seen a lot of change in the market conditions since COVID. We had pretty much 11, 12 years of pretty solid stability, and then we saw all that change during COVID, and now we really haven't recovered. We haven't really established any kind of normality. We call it the new normal, but there's nothing normal about what we're going through at the moment. So, biggest thing for me, the advice that I'd give people is businesses should actually continuously monitor all market trends, particularly customer feedback, as well as emerging technologies. They need to be strategically planning. So, having a more formal assessment of innovation should be integrated into your strategic plan. And generally that should be quarterly at a minimum. some people do it annually, and it's kind of like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
You got to review milestones. That's what, so you can track the progress of any initiative that you've put in place that might be innovative, and then you got to look for the significant external events such as changes in regulation and shifts in consumer behaviour, as well as industry disruptions. Then you've got, obviously, regularly evaluating any of your competition as well as benchmarking against industry. And my big one is always, the customer feedback as well as the employee inputs. Ultimately, the frequency of an innovation assessment should be a flexible and adaptable process, but it should also meet the specific needs and circumstances of your business. So it's essential that people strike a balance between being proactive in pursuing innovation and not overwhelming the organisation and its people with constant changes. Because innovation should be strategic and a thoughtful process, and so the assessment frequency should support that objective.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this isn't my second question. I have a sub question because I love doing this to you. And it's something that just come to me now. How do I really identify something that's innovative and not just a shiny, cool idea that I have? Like,
Well,
how do I see the difference?
well, firstly, you need a strategic plan so you can use that as your benchmark. But innovation is kind of shiny objects. That's why you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
But the shiny object that's in alignment with what you're doing. If let's say that you sell car tires, and the innovation is a new rim to fit your car tire, then that's in the same industry, same project. But let's say that it's you fit car tires, and now you want to be making engines. It's not in alignment with your strategic direction of your business. Then you're just going down a path of, well, that's what I want to do, and it's here how it is. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, is being really mindful of that position.
Yeah.
That's kind of how you know where you stand.
Yeah, and not actually being disruptive. Okay, got it. All right, my second question for you is, what strategies do you use to foster the culture of innovation within your team? Now, I'm fortunate enough with us that you're very open to us coming with ideas and different perspectives of what we've heard, of what we've seen. It doesn't mean you always say yes, but we have that open door to be able to say, hey, what do you think about this? How do you, as a leader, how do you kind of help your teams take that initiative to step up and speak up about those kinds of things?
Look, I think it's important to understand context. Innovation has got to be part of your culture, no matter what kind of organisation you are. We move in a world that's moving so quickly. Change is becoming more frequent. Transformation is more inevitable. So if you want to stay competitive, then you've got to adopt to the changing circumstances. So the biggest thing is you've got to provide, leaders should actively champion as well as support all innovation efforts. I mean, sometimes you guys come to me with absolutely shit ideas. And I'm blunt enough to tell you that.
Yeah. It sounds good at the time. And then when you break it down, we're like, oh, yeah, that was a bit ridiculous.
But then again, now that you guys are more aligned because of the clear vision and goals, then your ideas and innovations are becoming better and better. So one, leaders need to champion actively and support innovation. Two, they need to have, you need to be able to articulate the clear vision and goals of the company to all its people. One thing that that I do a lot of is I encourage risk-taking. We create a very safe space for experimentation. I mean, what do I tell people? You need to read for 20 minutes in the morning. You need to reflect for 20 minutes in the middle of the day. And then you need to experiment at the end of the day, every single day. Right?
Yeah.
So, there's the golden egg for everyone. You've got to also have diverse teams. Diverse teams like what we have in Evolve. I mean, most coaching businesses are targeted to industries because everyone says, oh, niche. And people get sucked into that shit. You have a look at all the You look at all the big coaching businesses that are in the allied health space. I mean, it's prolific. There are so many of it, and some of these guys are really good. So I'm not shitting on them. But if I was an allied health professional, why would I go to an allied health tailored practice? Well, I've asked this question to people that are in our program who are from allied health, and they went to those people, and they got terrible outcomes because what they thought they needed was systems and processes. Anyone can write you systems and processes. If you want to cheat, right, and get something off the back of a truck that everybody else is using, then by all means go there, because that's what they're doing. Belinda, classic KO quote.
Belinda, hey Belinda.
Right? Hey Belinda. But the reality of it is, if you want to be different, you want to differentiate yourself, and this is what innovation is all about, then you've got to go with innovative people. You've got to go and work with people who have got the diversity and the creative thinking, right? Because these guys are selling a cookie cutter. That's all they know. They can't lean into what other industries are doing. I mean, one of our clients was trying to tell me that, they were in one of the big coaching programs with Allied Health, and they were in our program as well, and inevitably they left that one to stay with us. And they were saying, they're telling us that we're going into a recession. The allied health industry is fucking recession proof. Like, it's swipe the card most of the time. Like, come on. So these people just implicate fear, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't subscribe to that. You know that. So, and again, that's because I'm entrepreneurial. But most people know I'm entrepreneurial, and I'm entrepreneurial with my money. But when it comes to our client, we're very risk averse. So I think the key is you got to give. So that's one element of it, but you also got to keep that open communication. You've got to have time for creativity. I know that I give you guys lots of time to be creative. We have daily huddles, we have monthlies, we have quarterlies, we have annuals. We're trying to find a date for the annuals because we're also bloody busy. It's a really good problem to have, right? Respect to whoever said truth. I can't see your name, but I appreciate that. You'll only ever get truth on these calls. But you've got to really invest in training and development of your team. And we do a lot. I mean, you guys are part of our entire Evolve weekends. Our Momentum weekends. And I encourage you guys to do it. Like, you did LWP and it blew your mind.
We started with the booklets, and we are mapping out our own things with our own programs, which obviously, I really enjoy because it gives us an opportunity to do the thinking in our programs and where we're invested in the business, and then to come back and collaborate about that with you is pretty cool. And I think, even from your perspective, not that I've seen it from that viewpoint, but I think it would be really interesting to see what we write and see what we come up with and go, okay, this is where they're thinking and this is what, how their perception or their views are. So it goes both ways, I think.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is you need to recognize and reward innovative efforts within an organization, and you need to celebrate the failure. Right? Like, so many people go, oh, I can't do it. I go and consult big businesses and they're like, oh, we love what you talk about online, but, please don't get these guys to celebrate failure. I'm like, what am I here for?
Yeah.
I was an expert in failure for a long time.
Yeah.
Journalists thrived on writing about how much I'd failed. Good on you, mate. Tip-top one. Right? But the reality of it is, while everyone else is bitching, I'm getting on with it, and I'm learning, and I'm mastering. And that's what we teach people. Go out, make the mistakes, crush it. Like Gary Vee says, what is it? Jab, jab, right hook. It's like you test, then you hit them. Jim Collins uses the analogy of the cannonballs and bullets. Go out there and fire bullets, with a rifle, with a scope. Don't go shoot the cannonballs, because if you miss, then they know where you are. So use a rifle, understand the range of distance, then bang, hit them with the cannonball and take them out. So there's a lot of ways that you can skin the cat, but also always remember, as a leader, you got to lead by example, right? You've got to be continuously learning too, and you've got to always teach your team to be customer centric when you're talking about innovation. So fostering a culture of innovation takes time, effort, and it also requires ongoing commitment from everybody in the team, not just leadership. It's not just about implementing new strategies, but also consistently, Simone, enforcing as well as nurturing a culture that thrives, right, and makes people feel that it's okay to have a go. Okay
Yeah.
to have a go.
Well, this leads into my third question really nicely, and that is like when you're implementing these changes and innovations, how do you manage the risks? Is that something that you sit down and strategize as well around the risk? Is this a mindset thing for yourself and your teams? Like, what do you do around that?
Look, managing potential risks when implementing any change or innovation in an organization is crucial to ensure the success and sustainability of any initiative. Okay. So
Mm,
there are some things that you can do. I always like to do a scenario analysis where I identify the risks, I do a risk assessment, I prioritize the risks,
mhm.
I then create a risk mitigation plan. I also generally have at least 4 or 5 contingencies. I'm used to be a lover of playing chess, and the reason
Mhm.
why is I always were thinking all the moves ahead that the opposition would have. Um, my son, for example, said that he was the greatest chess player in the family, and that he'd beaten Uncle Paulie, and Uncle Paulie said that he was the best chess person. So I proceeded to beat my 8-year-old son without conceding a single piece. And I
Yeah.
looked at him at the end and I said, Leo, how do you feel? And he goes, that's terrible, Pa. I said, look, that wasn't me just trying to show you. I said, I anticipated every move you made before you made it. That's experience,
Mm,
right? I said, but you can't go out saying that you're the best, right? Now, Uncle Paulie probably lied to you because I've never played Uncle Paulie and I reckon I'd beat him, right? So he's like, I'm going to deal with Uncle Paulie. I said, no, you're not to deal with Uncle Paulie. What you've got to do is you've got to improve your game. So you've got to anticipate, right? And I said, you've got to anticipate the person that's in front of you. How long have they played? What have they done? And you've got to concentrate. And I was really proud of
mm,
him because despite him getting absolutely thrashed, he concentrated the entire game. He didn't give up.
mm.
He didn't try and throw the pieces. And that's what I was testing. I was saying, how far can I go? And I mean, at one point, I was totally massacring him. I left him with his king and a pawn, and the only problem is he hadn't got any of my pieces, so I couldn't go and get more queens. And I thought, how long can I take the mickey out of it? I've done it to him before, and I actually put myself in a bloody stalemate position. So I was actually quite upset. This time it didn't happen, although I almost lost concentration. But look, the biggest thing is you got to look at your feedback mechanisms. I know that every week I talk about it because feedback loops are really important. So what's your
Mm,
feedback mechanisms, and then how do you loop them back? How do you actually, someone gives you feedback, how do you acknowledge that feedback was taken on board? When people write us any kind of feedback, we're always writing it. When someone writes us a review, we respond. It's about making sure it's implemented with your team. Make sure that if they come up with an idea and it's implemented, that you acknowledge it, recognize it, and then let them know it's happening, right?
mm,
You got to implement a robust change management strategy as well to address any potential resistance to the
yeah.
innovation. There's also the legal compliance as well, Simone. People often bypass legal compliance, and then when they get sued, they've got these 30 grand bills. So
Mm,
go spend the 3 grand to get the compliance, and and don't compromise on that area. Um, what else is there? There's that continuous improvement philosophy that you need to have, and then also the documentation. When people start
mm,
getting innovative and entrepreneurial, they forget to document. So then you don't have a benchmark to work from when shit goes south. Whereas, everything we do, we benchmark and we go, okay, we've run a lead generation campaign. We generated 500 leads. We spent $1,000. That's $2 cost per lead. And then what's the CAC? And then we've
mm,
got the base number. We know the ad. We know the audience that we targeted. And then we'll run another campaign with a different lead magnet. It gets us a different result. And we go, oh, same target audience, same it was just different lead magnet. What does that mean? Which
mm,
campaign was better? And then you can also A, B, and test a whole bunch of scenarios. So, look, systematically, you've got to identify, assess, and as well as address potential risks,
mm,
not just through innovation, but any change that you want to create. Um, you can increase the likelihood of success or successful implementation by minimizing those negative impacts if you do those things well. And like anything, assess the risk. I'm chairman of several boards, not my own companies, and several, like four. I've stepped down from another one now. So the four private companies that I chair. And one of the biggest things is we're constantly reviewing risk. Every board meeting, we look at risk and compliance. When you've got a hospital or a day hospital, there's a lot of compliance. There's a lot of associated risk. There's anything to do with humans in an engineering firm that I also chair. There is health and safety, risk and compliance. There's all of these things, and so it's not just innovation that you need to be thinking about for this, but either way, I mean, this is an area I spend a lot of time in. I love it. I'm incredibly blessed that I get to live in a super strategic spot every single day of my life, and I have people that trust me and listen to the advice that I give them, and they value that opinion, and so we go forward. But I think that comes down to the experience. What is it? I've 80 ventures, 25 years of business ownership experience. I find it fascinating when people question my experience, and it's like, really? You haven't read the newspapers, but I guess the unfortunate issue is that most people struggle to I guess in this space that we're all in at the moment, and I've got to finally say that I'm in this coaching space because we have.
I know you don't like that C word.
I'm not a fan of the word, but because of the connotation, because the people that I'm sharing the stage with, right? To me, coaching, now that we have 3 coaching programs and some other incredible programs in the mix, I mean, it's one of those things. We've got you coaching clients and working with teams. I mean, we've got a very exciting 2024. I mean, like I said to you on the call yesterday, when have we ever seen Bonnie so excited? I mean, she, even today, I had another marketing meeting with her, and she's like, we are so going to nail 2024. And I'm like, who are you? And so, the events affect us as well. But I also think as a leader, I've made some very big decisions that have, because of listening to you guys, the feedback that you've given me. We haven't created any new initiatives in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Poor Lucy, my wife, on the other hand, she's been copping all of them, and she did whinge about the Compass workshop that I want to run on. Like, hey, honey, here is 35 pages I have created. Can you please put together this? And she's like, are you kidding me? I've got to create the huge keynote for the pharmaceutical company for you in January. I'm like, yeah, that needs to go for print. So we need to get that all. So we've got, we are a company that pivots and innovates pretty rapidly and quickly, but that's only because of all the things that I talked about today. And how do you understand more of that? Hang around with those types of people.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing. Jim Rohn, I say it every week. Jim Rohn says, you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend most of the time with. And there's so much truth in that. I miss my friends immensely. I haven't seen any of my mates for way too long, like a month or more. And that's the sacrifices that we're going to make this time of the year to get through. But as my wife kindly reminded me last night, everyone's on holidays, and you booked every single day in the holidays. And I'm like, well, I booked every single day doing holiday stuff, plus some work in between.
Yes.
So, there is no such thing as a stop button when you're a high performer. And I think that's another big part of innovation. If you want to grow, there's pain. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I haven't talked about Honey, I don't think, on
not on a live, no, but we've been hearing all about Arnie's book that you're obsessed with. Be Useful.
Mate, I have made it a mission of mine. Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you are listening, right? Blake, what have you done to yourself? Arnold Schwarzenegger, if I am truly blessed in this life, I really want to meet you. I've been a massive fan of your bodybuilding career, your movies, when you were the governor of California, but more importantly, I'm blown away by the book that you've written, Be Useful.
Yeah.
And I really highly recommend. I mean, we've got, what is it? Like 3/4 of Evolve is now reading the book. So I'm probably the biggest affiliate partner you have. But I've been so inspired by the simplicity and the clarity. And actually, I owe Tim Ferriss the shout out too, because it was actually while I was going away for our yearly anniversary trip to the lake house with Lucy, and I finally convinced Lucy to listen to a podcast that I listen to, and I always listen to Tim Ferriss, and Tim actually interviewed Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it blew me away, so much so that I was like, I'm going to go get the book, and I'm actually listening now, second time around. I'm trying to find a couple of punchlines that I can associate. Now, this one's not G-rated, but I think Jack, one of our from Northside Railing, one of our clients, he's become addicted too. And what did he write here? I think he said the quote. He's got his new favorite quote from the book. Where is it? Don't be a lazy fuck. Come on, do the work. And I'm like, Jack, come on. I mean, we've lost our G rating already a few times, but the truth is, it is such a blessing, because he keeps it really simple, and I love what he says, that pain is growth. Okay, pain is growth. Repetitions is strength. So you're going to go through pain in order to grow, but then when you start doing the reps, you get better at it. And he uses all of those analogies. And honestly, it is, if you're feeling slightly weak in mindset or weak in attitude, mate, the book is phenomenal because of the way he describes it. And so there's so many. I mean, there are so many cool analogies. And yes, I know I even put on the accent sometimes, but it's I'll be back. But the reality of it is, just there's some inspirational stories, and he was innovative, but he knew what he wanted. He wanted to come to America, right? Because America was the land of promise. And
he was very clear on his vision, right? That's what he talks about so much.
Intent, right? And we talk a lot about intent. We even have, my guru that comes in and does a session before we start our weekly. Whether it's our Friday or Saturday event, and it's all about setting intentions, and I think that's primary to being innovative. So, look, I mean, there you have it. We for Jack's benefit, we're almost at 30 minutes. Have you got anything else? Simone, any final questions?
No final questions, no. And I think I just want to sort of end with a bit of a statement of being mindful of what you do over the next 6 weeks. Like, a lot of people are talking about shutting down, closing up, switching off. And although that is really important, it's also such a fantastic time to get ahead and be really strategic about how you launch next year. And I just want to credit that to learn from you.
No, thank you. And you just reminded me, this time last year, I flew to Melbourne to sit down with Adrian and map out customers in demand. And, while everyone else was getting ready to wind up the year, Adrian and I worked through Christmas and into early January, launched January 13th. We gave ourselves 30 days. We brought on 20 people in the first month, and we built the program as we were doing it. And to think that program has changed the lives of so many people in the last 12 months, and we have not tried to grow it, because we've been preparing for what we're about to do. I'm, publishing a book next year called Customers on Demand that I think is going to blow away my first book, An Introduction to a Business Growth Mindset. It's purely targeted to help businesses, small businesses, startup businesses to scale, but from an attraction and conversion perspective. You're one of the coaches in the program, so is Bonnie, so is Adrian, so am I. And we are, going to sign up, 100 people in 90 days. And that's using the game plan that we teach. So we are incredibly excited. But again, that's all work in progress that's happening during the holidays this year.
Yeah.
But, I think people take this notion of holidays and go, oh, it's an opportunity for me to turn off and reset. Mate, if you love what you do, you don't need to reset, right?
Yeah.
You need, like me, I have 2 days rest and I'm like going, okay, I need to get back onto this. And it's, people go, oh, but you're a workaholic. I'm not. I can turn off, sit in a jacuzzi and smoke a stogie, right? That's Arnold's words, but mine, I do the same thing. I sit in my swimming pool or in the spa and, but the thing is, Simone, it's whatever serves you, right? Like when and that's what LWP was all about, wasn't it? Why are you alive? Why do you exist? And when you truly know that, it just changes your life. I mean, someone the other day was saying that I'm trying to be Tony Robbins, and I was like, mate, I'm not Tony Robbins. There is no, there's not even any comparison between Tony and I. Because he is on another stratosphere. His energy, but why? Because he lives with passion. He knows exactly what it is he's doing. He's rehearsed it 1,000 times, right? I'm not trying to be anybody other than Christian Lavolsi. I'm the only Christian Lavolsi in the whole world, and I didn't even have to change my name. So, at least a Christian with a K. Last time I checked, about 5 years ago. So, I think it's really important that you run your own race. And yes, you use this time, Simone, to reflect and set yourself goals. People that are waiting to reflect and set themselves goals next year, you lost already, right?
Yeah.
Our whole membership have already had all their goals reset for the next 90 days, 4-week game plans. And now I'm going to give them a double dose of the compass on Tuesday next week. And maybe all our listeners are going to get lucky, and maybe I'll do something for people that are subscribed to our database, and and get them on board maybe the week of Christmas just for shits and giggles, because I like to help people. But you got to be planning well ahead. I mean, we already planned last year, 4 weeks ago, so it's not like people that are planning. Let's plan in January. Yeah, mate, you missed the boat, right? So. But you're better off planning at any time, but just plan and then execute with absolute precision. Anyway, time's over. Time to go.
Yes. Oh, Amanda's online and she's just said that she chose you over Tony.
You stop that, Amanda. Amanda, it's you. It's you that is causing me this grief that all these people think I'm Tony. No, Amanda McNeil, I am incredibly grateful. You are one of the exact reasons why I do what I do, as well as Belinda, who's on there. But Amanda is actually our second person that's gone from COD and grown their business into Evolve. And I'm incredibly proud of it. She's got COVID, right? She got COVID and she's at work. She showed up for the jam session today and has turned up to listen to this broadcast. I mean, that's the kind of person. If you're that kind of person, then you're my kind of person, right? So, there is shit that will happen. And so, big shout out to you, Amanda. I didn't even know that people could comment from YouTube. She's on YouTube. That's really cool. Yeah. And she's pissing herself laughing.
Emojis, we love it. Christian Lavolsi, let's wrap this up so you can get out of here. Thank you very much for your time and insights as always. I love these hot seats, and I can't wait to keep delivering these into 2024. We got one more episode next week, so we will be bringing it home with the goods, I'm sure.
Now, hang on, before we depart, next week's episode, I'm at the river. I'm not sure, so we might have to record it on Tuesday.
Okay.
So maybe we do a hot seat on Tuesday live before we do the compass exercise with everybody.
Ooh,
right? You know me, I like to fill every single minute of my diary to the minutia. So anyway, love to all of our listeners. Thank you very much for participating and playing full out. And to all of my amazing Evolve and COD boardroom and in one-on-one clients, I really do freaking love you guys. You make it all so worthwhile, and I'm really grateful that you're with me in 23 and in 24, and my whole team.
Yes.
Couldn't do it without you guys. So we'll see you next week. I think it's the 19th, right? 19th?
Yes, it will be.
All right.
Tuesday the 19th.
See you later.
Signing
everyone.
off. Goodbye.
Now I just got to work out how to turn this off, right? Hang on. I just hit the end.